Hey friends, long time no see. This is Breckie from Breckie Writes, and today we're going to be doing an update and some ideas for this channel and a little bit of a change. So if you're interested in seeing my conversation on becoming an indie author, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and stay tuned. So it's been a while, and once upon a time, a dozen years ago it feels like now, I started a booktube channel, and it was where I was reviewing books, and I loved it. But what I found was I couldn't keep up with the volume of book reading, book purchasing, and book reviewing that I needed to make that channel successful. Additionally, I had a full-time job that was very demanding. I ended up moving states, meeting my husband and my stepsons, getting married, starting a family, adding on to that family with twins, and then now, 5 years after all of those shenanigans, I am living in a new state. So I have been wondering whether or not I wanted to even attempt to resurrect this channel, to use this channel for anything, or to close it. But I've decided that I really do want to start using this space as an accountability space to my writing. Writing has been one of those things that I've loved since I was a child. I think a lot of us who become writers have always had this love of story, not just to read it, but to be in the flow of creation. And so I spent last year not writing at all. I walked away from writing. I'd been burned out. The trad pub industry was just hurting my soul. I was getting a lot of rejections that basically said, love the writing. This is an unmarketable story. And I keep writing these quote unquote unmarketable stories for trad pub, which has to be able to market to a really massive audience. And some friends of mine have decided to go indie. They've had a really positive experience so far, and I've read some great indie books, and I've realized that being an indie author is a very different thing than it was 10 years ago when it was a new thing. I also have to say I'm super inspired by the wonderful, magnificent Sarah Cannon over at Heart Breathings and her encouragement for people to just do the thing and be bold and put your story and your characters out there. And that's what I'm doing. So this is not as much a life update, although I did give that review for those of you who are new and want to kind of figure out where I came from and what I'm doing. But I am going to be bringing back this channel. My goal is about a once a week, very simple update video. As you can see, I don't have a fancy background. You can see my messy house. My lighting is imperfect. I don't have great makeup on, but I want to be making videos rather than making perfect videos, which is kind of the bar that I can set for myself. And I want to take you through what it's going to look like as I become an indie published author. I've never published anything before. And so I think walking with someone who's figuring it out might be really helpful if you are someone who has that novel that hasn't found a place in trad pub, maybe because it is too niche, or maybe you just don't want to bother with the hoops of trad pub. Maybe your joy is just to get fun stories into the hands of readers. Whatever your reason for wanting to go indie, I want to encourage you to consider it if that is something that works for you, and to join me as I do that process. I am taking my very first novel I ever finished, one of the very first books I ever even imagined way back 20 years ago now, and that has been marinating in my brain. I had to learn a lot of skills in order to tell the story I wanted to tell, but the meta level is that it's about werewolves in the Civil War. On a deeper level, it's not actually about the war. It's about the people who don't fight that are impacted by violence. It's about the impact of violence on people who come back from war. It is about what violence does to our psyches and what it takes to heal that. And this was inspired by the fact that I was a teenager during the second Gulf War, during the invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan, and I lost friends. And then I had friends who came back, but I basically lost them. They were there in body, but their souls were so damaged by what they saw. And I wanted to write a novel that addressed that without that being the only thing it was doing, you know? And so I wrote a fantasy novel. I wrote a fantasy novel about a werewolf pack that lives in Appalachia that eventually goes and fights on the side of the Union in the Civil War, that is impacted by all these decisions of the people around them without actually making the decisions themselves, because they're kind of removed from humankind society. And then what violence does, both violence that you might experience as a person that's not like related to war, and then violence on the scale that war is and what that does to the psyche, and how do we as communities heal. The story was originally meant to be YA, but I've decided to age it up and make it new adult. So the character starts at 18, but she's about 20 by the time the book ends. It covers about a year and a half. the first book, I think it's going to be a duology. It might end up being a trilogy, but I think it's going to be a duology. And she goes through a lot of changes. She is growing into being an adult and chafing at responsibility while also wanting to be responsible. It's that weird, I want the adultingness of having the responsibilities because it makes me feel grown up. And when you're a child, you're in such a hurry to grow up. And then chafing at the fact that the more adult responsibilities you have that give you the freedom of being an adult, the less free you actually are. And so that kind of trajectory is something I'm working on. I have one of the kind of main side characters is a woman named Aunt Sedna, and she's Scottish. Like, she was one of the only people who was born in Scotland when they immigrated to the United States, and she talks with this really great accent and is this very wise mage figure, and she's one of my favorite characters. I just am really in love with the story, and it's good, y'all. Like, there are plot points and pieces and pacing that I'm working on, but on a prose level, I know how to write. And I know that sounds really arrogant. Like, that is a talent I have. Like, God bless whatever, the muse has decided to give me. I'm not always great at pacing. I'm not always great at twists. Like, I don't think about books in terms of twists. That's not a skill I naturally have, but I can put you in a setting and make you want to fall sideways into the world. Like, that's a gift I have. And that's what I love in books too. And so I think I just got really frustrated because I was like, I am doing the things, but nobody wants what I'm writing because it's so weird. The last book I queried before the werewolf book that I've come back to was a young adult contemporary, but it had like speculative elements. And I had two really great people who wrote me who wanted it on request, and one of them said the middle kind of is a little wonky. Fair enough, most writers struggle with the middle, but I really love your writing. You have talent, you're there. The middle needs work, and I have no idea how I would sell this book. It's not speculative and it's not contemporary. Like, you don't go far enough to make it a speculative book, but it's got these like hints of speculative stuff in it as a contemporary. It doesn't fit in either genre, so I can't sell your book for you. And I was just like, but why? And she basically said, it doesn't matter that you're a good writer. I have to sell a book. And that was the moment I was like, maybe this isn't about being in Trad Pub anymore. This is a rambly video. I'm going to have more structured videos in the future, so forgive me for being a little bit rambly, but I do want to talk a little about my process. So my first book, which I think currently the tentative working title is Curse in the Blood. That might change. I took the old manuscript. I'm in the process of revisions. I have about 20% left to go through my revisions. I may or may not have one more beta read, just read it for pacing and if there's any inconsistencies that I've missed. But I've started just started yesterday, a plotting journal for book 2. This was inspired by the wonderful Sarah Cannon. You guys, if you're not following her, you're missing out. She's a delightful human. But basically, I am going to be journaling and using this as my kind of focus space for writing the second book. I have a ton of these like spiral notebooks, and the problem is I end up putting them down and picking them up and forgetting where I have all my notes. So everything is going to be kept in here or in my Google Docs. I have Scrivener, and I like Scrivener, except I don't like how difficult it is to export things. And since my beta readers and we read via Google Docs so we can make comments, the whole export and then changing things and like track changing for Scrivener, it just is too much. So I have a Scrivener. I'm not going to be using it, which I kind of is a bummer because I know people love it, but I write in Google Docs. Okay, so I will do probably a haul of all my planner stuff because I spoiled myself, and as a birthday present I got myself some planner things, and I'm going to be using that for my life and my work and my job and everything. And my other YouTube channel, if you don't know, I run a YouTube channel all about emergency preparedness for not crazy conservatives. I will link it down below. It's called Sustainable Prepping. If you're worried about emergencies, if you want to have your plans in place, I'm your gal over on another channel. But on this channel and in this book, I'm going to be taking you through how I write the second book, how I begin to figure out how to set up everything for writing the first book. Like I have a book that's finished and it basically just needs, you know, like line edits. And then I would love a reader to read through and just tell me if there's any massive like plot holes or, oh, you said that a character was 9 here and then 8 here, you know, little things like that, that kind of upper level reading, because I'm pretty comfortable with where a story is and the trajectory of a story. I'm not changing anything developmentally. But I need to, you know, pick a cover and decide on a title and pick a date of when I'm going to release it and start building the brand and the marketing and figuring out like, is it worth spending any money on stuff? And what are the genres I'm going to pick? And is it going to go Kindle exclusive? Is it going to go wide? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know anything about this. So this channel is going to be that evolution. I'm going to talk to you about the writing stuff. I'm going to talk to you about the marketing stuff. I'm going to talk to you about being someone who has a job. I work 3/4 time at a nonprofit. I have 4 kids, and my toddlers are always home by 3:30 every day. So, you know, I only get about 6 hours of work time. Monday through Friday, assuming they're in school, because if they're homesick or if a school is closed, they're home with me. I've got a 7th grader and a 9th grader who are my stepsons that also need attention and have things going on in their lives and need mama around. And I run another channel, and yeah, so like I have a lot going on my plate. And I decided this year that I love creative writing. When I'm in the flow zone, it's the closest thing to magic I can imagine. And I don't want to give it up. So I know that this is a very unscripted, chatty video. I'm going to try to have better lighting and all the things for the next videos, but you know, no promises. But I'm going to take you through in the next video next week, my stationery haul, because I got some cool stuff. I was inspired by Sarah Cannon to spoil myself with some fun things, and I am going to show you about my plotting notebook, and I have a cool day planner, and then I have an inspiration journal. I'll show you all that stuff if that's something you're interested in. And then I'm going to go forward and show you about how I'm doing my revision process, what I'm going to be doing to plot the second novel, and then what I'm going to be doing to get these books ready for indie publishing and the ups and downs of that, because I'm brand new. This is not something I'm an old hat at. And I think maybe you following somebody who will make all the mistakes so you can avoid them might be a fun thing. I hope you guys are all doing well, and I really hope that you are inspired and you are creative and that you are following your dreams, even when they're hard, because my dream has always been to be a published writer. My dream is to be able to know that people can go to the library and check out my books and read my characters, and, you know, just for a dozen hours or however long it takes them to read one of my books, they are transported to a world and they can escape from all the stress of this world. That's what I really want out of these books. And so I hope that I can get them into the hands of readers. All right, friends, I hope you guys are doing well. And until the next video, see you later.